us requiring that foreign meat be labeled was a violation of free trade and caused them harm, and so it had to go. Now, this is a big enough issue even in its own right, because we should have a right, we do have a right to, even if one agrees with the legislation or does not, we do have a right to pass our own laws and to require that those products coming into our country should follow these guidelines.
Sure, it circumvents our own laws, William F. Jasper. I just put an article up on screen, you're a TV viewer out there, where the EU is ordering countries to take massive asylum seekers out of Africa and other areas in as if it's their responsibility to pay for it. I mean, this is globalism. Go ahead.
Yes, I mean, and so we can be sure, because there are already hundreds of other cases pending before the WTO and NAFTA courts. We can be sure that when the TPP and TTIP, if they are passed, that we will see many, many more lawsuits like this brought before the tribunals, the judicial bodies of the TTIP and the TPP, and or to the World Trade Organization, because frequently these preferential trade agreements, PTAs, which is what they call these free trade agreements, frequently these are bumped up to the WTO, or sometimes countries elect to begin at the WTO. WTO is really an adjunct of the United Nations, and it is has been from the very beginning a key institution of the whole New World Order. It's the judicial branch of the New World Order, and this judicial branch operates much in the same fashion that our own judiciary does here in the United States in this past century. It acts as a subversive force to legislate from the bench. And so we see that happening already. And what's even more disarming about this is that here we have right at the beginning both the TPP and the TTIP architects, the politicians and the gurus who've put it together, are referring to both of these documents as living, evolving agreements, meaning, as they explain and as we've quoted them at length, that regardless of what they say it means today, the agreement, and we don't even know what that is because we haven't had an officially released document, but even once it is released, because it is a living, evolving document, that means that it will mean whatever they say it means, or whatever a TPP or WTO judge says.
And this is key. If folks just joined us, I'm going to interject here, because just like Obamacare or any other new law they pass that are these big omnibus bills, it's just open-ended. They do whatever they want. They have a name for that. It's called basically dictatorship, oligarchy, basically rule of the elite, diplomatic immunity for the big hedge fund heads. We see the world they're building of total inequity, selling it under the idea of equality. It's just over the top. And then if you pull back from it, this happened yesterday morning. I was at the gym, and State Senator Rodney Ellis, big Democrat, comes in. The only two electricals in there of a big line were by me. He gets on, and then a state rep, Trey Martinez, gets up, and they start talking for 15 minutes while I listen about how great it's going to be and how Stratford and the CIA are advising them on how wonderful in a few decades or even sooner, 5 to 15 years they were talking about, how they'll be able to run for office in Mexico City. Folks can run for office in Texas and Canada. Now it's going to be one union. They didn't say, gee, all those conspiracy theorists were right who got the documents, 20 years ago or 10 years ago with BAMP Canada. No, it was just, oh, it's so cool. Oh, and it's so cool we get advised. And they weren't even villains. Martinez was talking about how interesting it was and how cool it was that, the CIA advises the Department of Public Safety through Dr. Friedman and all this, and how neat it is. So it's sold like it's this new great thing. We get to be under, and then he gets to advance, and he doesn't want to aspire to be part of the federal government. No, you aspire to be part of the global government. As you were saying, you just join with these corporations, and there's this new place for you in the future on these corporate boards. And then I looked up the senator. He's on the main UT board. He's on everything. And they're just going, yep, like it's just fun. There's just no discussion, no nothing. Oh, they know all about the TPP. It's a fun new thing. They know all about the NAU. It's a fun new thing. And listen, I'm not even saying these guys are bad people. They've just so standardized it that we already can't see secret agreements that run our lives because we're already under global government. Now they're just going to start unwrapping it, unveiling it, unpackaging it, and deploying it. Do you agree with that statement?
Very much so. And in fact, you see, this is what Americans have to come to understand very quickly, that this process has been underway now for decades. And it has, the fruit is beginning to be quite obvious. We now have many foreign corporations that own much of the infrastructure and corporate infrastructure here in the United States. Many people's jobs are dependent upon these companies. Many of the American companies do not consider themselves American companies. They consider themselves globalists, citizens of the world. They believe in globalization and globalism and in a borderless world. Many of them are in favor of actually doing away with borders, which is part of the TPP. It hasn't come out yet. But there is a whole chapter dedicated to immigration, and the immigration is pointing, the immigration policies are pointing to the same as we saw in the Korean free trade agreement that President Obama presided over, which has greatly increased the L1 visa guest workers, the so-called temporary guest workers that become permanent. And President Obama boasted that this was responsible for bringing hundreds of thousands of new immigrants here into the country temporarily, and then, of course, they never have to leave. Now, so this is leading us toward what we've already seen in the European Union, where it is impossible to stop migration. Immigration all of a sudden becomes migration.
And now they're standardizing and saying you will pay by law hundreds of thousands a month, you will go along with it.
Yes, and as you know, a number of the countries have tried to say, well, hey, we're not going to pay welfare for these people. It's called welfare tourism, where these migrants come in and then they just stay there. They come in as tourists or as business class people, and then they just stay there. And
CNN publishes travel guides so how the Chinese can come here and get on welfare.
Yeah, and so that is happening on a huge scale, and of course that opens up all kinds of problems. Here we still have the capability of saying no, you can't go here. We can, in spite of President Obama, we can have them kicked out if they are here illegally. Once we become part of a North American Union, once we become part of a FTAA, which is the whole Pacific, or the TPP, TTIP, then any of those people who are at risk of being deported can bring a lawsuit, as we saw happened in England with the Romanian woman who was on welfare there. She said, no, I have a right to be here, and the court backed her up. So immigration is a huge issue, or migration, a huge issue in the TPP that hasn't been touched yet. As you pointed out, the vast majority of Americans still have not heard of either the TPP or TTIP. These are huge, huge existential threats. These are going to affect every aspect of every one of our lives. And the only reason we haven't heard from them is that there is this huge conspiracy in our media to keep everybody dumbed down, to keep these things which should be top news issues so that we can intelligently debate them, make intelligent decisions. We can't do that if we don't even know about them. And the news media is not doing performing its watchdog service, obviously, if they are not even reporting on the fact that our government officials are keeping all of this secret. I mean, that should be a top story every day. You should be seeing all of the news anchors out there demanding to know of Obama, why isn't this being released? Demanding to know of John Kerry, but no, they give them all these softball questions whenever they're up there, and they don't even bring this up.
Again, William F. Jasper is our guest. I'm looking online at my film Endgame Blueprint for Global Enslavement for the clip where Bush was with Merkel and Barroso in like 2007. It was right as the film was about to come out. I got the clip and added it. And he's going, this Atlantic partnership, the TIPEI or whatever you were quoting it as, it all gets mixed in my head, you know, is great merging the EU with our American Union. He actually says it. So that's what's so crazy about this is it's just out in the open.
Jose Manuel Barroso, a former Maoist communist in his student days, has always been a hardcore leftist, is the European Commission president. He's made many statements publicly, both that he's made to the world, but also publicly in globalist organizations, pointing out that he's for complete union with the United States. Most Americans are still being told this is about trade, about free trade. Look, free trade historically has been about tariffs.
This is about regulations of every facet of life. Come back and break it down for us, William F. Jasper. And I want to talk about how do we beat this in the final segment straight ahead, Infowars.com. Listen, it needs to be seen. People need to understand. You want to understand TPP? This is it. As William F. Jasper said, it's the same plan over and over again. Please become members of PrisonPlanet.tv. 20 people can use each membership to see the nightly news and the films and so much more. And you're funding the tip of the spear of a hardcore operation dedicated to exposing and fighting this. Buy the high-quality products at InfoWarsLife.com. 16% off on our high-quality vitamin B12 right now. Check out the other specials, InfoWarsLife.com or InfoWarsStore.com. All right, we've got 3.5 minutes left, William F. Jasper. Putting bookends on this, how do we beat this? Other key points.
Well, it's going to come down to the old game of boots on the ground and really hammering out messages to your congressmen, to your senators on a regular basis. That means right now when they're home on breaks, on recesses, when they're holding town hall meetings, they need to be besieged on this issue night and day. And you can be sure that all of these lobbies that are out there, all the lobbyists and all the business lobbies that are keyed in here, the globalists, they're on them all the time. And so if we value our freedom, we've got to do the same thing. And that means not just going out after the congressmen and the senators again and again, calling them, writing them, emailing them, but go talk to your local chamber of commerce and your local businesses that are being affected by this. Let them know what is happening and get them on board because they're going to be completely wiped out by this. Just the one issue of the investor state regulation resolution tribunal, that chapter exempts foreign corporations, foreign businesses from our regulations. We already know that our federal, state, and local regulations are destroying businesses here.
It's just over the top. You know,
be exempt from that.
Do 5 more minutes overdrive. We have a 1-minute break. I want you to finish up on solutions. Some stations don't carry it, but it's internet, Infowars.com/show. We have a free feed there. We're going to go into overdrive for 5 minutes with William F. Jasper. People get upset about the feds taking over. This is global secret corporations. And if they get away with this, what's next? I mean, we've got to stand up, folks. Stay with us.
GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
And where they can shut down markets, shut down their competition. You were trying to get into that and talk about solutions. Yeah, where foreign companies can operate here and be exempt. This is a get-out-of-jail-free card. This is new titles of nobility. This is just like the UN giving itself diplomatic immunity. This is the new royalty. This is the antithesis of the Renaissance or the American system and is flaming authoritarianism. I don't see how anyone would support this, William F. Jasper.
Well, yes. I mean, and we didn't even mention, we don't have time to go into the possibility, even likelihood that Obama would slip some gun control measures or ammunition.
Oh, they've said they will. Sure, talk about that for a minute, then solutions.
Yeah, you know, you might want to get Michael Hammond, General Counsel of Gun Owners of America, on if you haven't had him on. He's been looking into this. he tried to